Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining today's webinar on the development of Waterbody Programmes of Measures. Um, I'll quickly just go through a couple of housekeeping points before today's session starts. So you can enable your captions by clicking the CC button at the bottom of your screen. Um, you can amend the settings for the subtitles there as well. Um, with the Q&As, we're having a Q&A at the end of today's session. Please get your Q&As in to the please get your questions in via the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. This is next to the CC button as well. Because we're encouraging all questions to be through the Q&A function, we've disabled access to the chat box. But if you have any technical questions, then please raise your hand and I will message you privately. And finally, the webinar is being recorded today, as it will be posted on the CABA website afterwards with the slide pack shared as well. So that's everything from me. I'll now pass on to Claire Rees, who will begin today's session. Thanks.
Hello, thanks everyone for coming along today. It's great to be able to talk to you about the Programme of Measures. I'm looking forward to some good questions at the end. I'm just going to share my screen and hopefully magically it will pop up. Okay, I think we're there. Some of you already know me. Some of you don't. So I work for the Strategic Partnerships team in National Environment and Business. I work quite often with CABA at the National Support Group and at local level with Catchment Partnerships. We also have Andrew Seward and Paul Bryson on the call, who are in the Integrated Water Planning and Programmes team, and Mark Scott, who is in the Strategic Environmental Planning team. You'll hear most of the slides here today from Andrew, and Paul and Mark will be helping us with the Q&A at the end. So I'll now hand over to Andrew to run through the agenda and the slides. Thank you.
Right, good afternoon, everyone. So yeah, as Claire said, I'm Andrew Seward. I'm going to take us through an update really on the work that we've been doing around the Programme of Measures, looking at the background to the work, the approach that we're taking within the Environment Agency, and the data that we've used to produce a draft Programme of Measures data set that we're now undertaking a local area review. We'll then cover through the engagement opportunities and the role of the partnerships and catchment coordinators. And as Claire has said, that will take us through till 3 when we'll open up for the wider Q&A session. Okay, so first of all, if we have a look at the background to the Programme of Measures work, the current river basin management plans contain what we call a summary Programme of Measures. Now, this tends to be at quite a high level in terms of sector or pressure scale and covers the river basin district, so it's at that RBD scale. However, the cost-of-bet judicial review and the subsequent appeal, the courts clarified that we must also produce water body level programmes of measures. So by doing this, we need to clearly set out all of the measures that are required to achieve environmental objectives for each water body at that water body scale. So clearly that is quite a significant shift in focus. And the level of detail that we need to compile and be able to present when doing this at a water body scale. Clearly, we can't do this alone. We need to involve others in developing these proposals. There is also a requirement that we formally consult upon a Programme of Measures later in the period as well, and I'll cover this in the next slide when we look at the wider timeline. And the fourth point there, I think, is really significant in that this isn't just about a legal response to a judicial review. This work is actually fundamental to environmental planning and really as an immensely powerful tool, I think, that can influence the work that we do, the delivery of actions on the ground by all sorts, by all of the agencies and partners involved, really directing where we deliver our activities, target our resource, and deliver the maximum that we can for the environment. So if we have a look at the wider RBMP timeline first, so this is the timeline that we're working to deliver the next River Basin Management Plan. So we're here in sort of November 2026. Last week, we issued the Significant Water Management Issues Consultation. So that's the blue box there. And we've got these further two key milestones. So by December next year, we need to have issued the draft River Basin Management Plan consultation. And by December 27, have published the final River Basin Plan. So we've got, so the timeline is very much framed by these key milestones. The green bars then at the lower part of the timeline are setting out the work that we're undertaking now around developing the programme of measures. So a number of us have been working on this for the last 6 months or so, developing the approach and developing the data set nationally. And in November, we've formally sort of instructed our areas to start to review that data set in more detail. So this is what constitutes phase 1 of this process. So this is undertaken up until the end of January next year. After that, we will then move into phase 2, where we'll start to refine that data set. So we're expecting this to be between April and September next year, where we'll refine the programme of measures and start to develop that further and develop that to a point where we can then undertake a formal consultation of the programme of measures. And we're looking at delivering that formal consultation alongside the draft River Basin Management Plan around this time next year. Phase 3 will then be the further refinement of that in light of the feedback and comments, etc., that we get from that consultation. There will then be phase 3, taking all of that information into account before we then present that alongside the final River Basin Plan in 2027. Thanks for that. So looking at that timeline, we can then start to overlay that with how we see the 3 phases working, but how the 3 phases then can align with external engagement. So appreciating the pressures, across everyone involved and the timescales that we're working to throughout this phase 1. Engagement is very much around utilising existing engagement opportunities. So planned meetings that are already established, so catchment partnership meetings, etc. Very much sharing the information that we have, but in the manner of sharing it at those planned events that we have, rather than looking for bespoke engagement. So that would be phase 1 running through until February next year. I apologise there, I dropped out shortly. Emily, can you just notify if you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Right, okay, right, apologies for that. So yeah, just running through the slide here about the phases of engagement. So as we then move into phase 2, we can start to have more specific or bespoke discussions with catchment partnerships, and this might involve specific events, it might be engagement opportunities with individual sectors, etc. So as the detail that we have within the programme of measures improves, so too can the discussions and the engagement. That can increase in depth and start to really go into the detail of the measures that are being developed over time. So again, phase 2 would be between April and July, August time next year. That then takes us then into the formal consultation period. So we would publish this formal consultation alongside the draft river basin management plan. And as I say, this would be around this time next year. We will then take the comments and feedback, etc., from all the responses to the consultation and take those into account in finalising the measures ahead of the final updated river basin plan by the end of 2027. So just to summarise here, the aims then of this phase 1 review, so the aims really of the work that's being undertaken now and by the end of January. So phase 1 is very much a local review of an EA collated data set. So we've collated a data set nationally based upon various sources of information that we hold, collated this into one overall data set. And so the key step, or phase 1, the key step really is to undertake a high-level review of this data to ensure that we've got a baseline data set that is robust and provides a suitable basis then for further development into phase 2. And ideally, by the end of phase 1, what we'd like to have is a clear connection, really, or a clear path between failing elements, reasons for not achieving good or reasons for not achieving objectives, and measures or investigations where they may be required, and all of that meeting that requirement that we've got that at that water body scale. Claire? If you click all the way through, Claire, that's it. And we can represent this here sort of graphically in this sort of conceptual diagram, or what we sometimes term as a logic chain. So the first block there on the left is where we undertake our monitoring, we do the classification, and we identify failures. So we identify where we're failing to meet the objectives that we set in water bodies for different elements. Against each failure, we need to assign at least one reason so that we can identify what a reason is behind that failure. And then for every reason, what we want to do then is assign at least one measure. So identify at least one measure that would address that reason for not achieving good and move that particular element up to good status or up to meeting the objective that we have set. So those 3 blocks there form that logic chain of the failing element, the reason, and then the measure that we would expect to be put in place. We can then go further forward.
Oh, I think the PowerPoint presentation's cut out. Is that the same for you, Andrew?
I think that's Claire. Is it gone?
Yeah, she's still on the panel, so just have a look. Claire, are you still here? Oh, there it goes. Looks like she's coming back on now. You just drop out there, Claire.
Yeah, sorry, I dropped out at the same time as Andrew did before as well, so I think there must be something odd
Is
going
it
on.
kicking you out then?
Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully it doesn't do it again, but if not, I've got the presentation up if you do cut out again.
Thank you, Emily.
Yes. Is it easier for you to share it, Emily or Claire?
I can share it. 1 second. Sorry, everybody. Oh, have you got it back up, Claire? Thanks. Oh, brilliant. There we go.
Thanks both. Yeah, so just to finish off this slide here, in terms of looking at this conceptual diagram or the logic chain of the failures, reasons, and then how that links through to measures. So we want to gather all of those 3 parts of the process there. The 4th block there at the end in yellow is then where we want to then identify delivery mechanisms, national programs, etc. So ultimately, how would these measures then be delivered? Is that through water company investment? investment, so the PR24 or PR29 water company investment, environment programme, catchment partnerships, government sort of environment land management schemes, things like that. So we can start to then, in addition to the measures, we can start to identify what the delivery mechanisms and funding mechanisms are that would enable us then to deliver those measures and actually sort of turn this programme of measures into a delivery programme on the ground. So all of that information is what we're aiming to pull together, but clearly there's a challenge around doing this and the timeline, and that is reflected how we're delivering this over these 3 distinct phases over the next 12 months. Next slide, please, Claire. So I've just got a couple of slides now just to set out the data that we've brought together to create this draft programme of measures data set, which we've now provided out to the areas. And this is the data set then that catchment coordinators will be able to share with yourselves across each partnership and start that local discussion. So we've produced it from a range of sources, the main one being the Environment Agency's catchment planning system. So this is our internal database that holds all of the WFD related information, including classifications, the reasons that we've assigned to any particular failures or not achieving standards, and any existing measures that we currently hold within the catchment planning system. So this data set, this forms the bulk of the wider data set that we've produced. In addition, we've then identified all of the water industry programme that has been set out in the Water Industry National Environment Programme, or the WINEP. So this is the PR24 programme of improvement that is scheduled for 2025 through to 2030. So the current water company investment programme. So we've got all of that built into the data set as well. And then the third set there is where we've looked and identified any gaps in the data where we need to pre-populate them with measures. So we've undertaken an exercise where we've pre-populated the data set based on logical measures that you would apply for given reasons. So if we have reasons associated with agriculture, we would identify some measures that would be around agricultural regulation and advisory services. Or similarly, if we had septic tanks as a particular reason in a water body, there would be activities there, again, around regulation, compliance with general binding rules, things like that. So rather than having gaps in the data set, where we can, we've attempted to pre-populate or seed the data set with logical measures that provide a starting point. Clearly they will need to be worked up, but they do provide a starting point for that discussion. Claire? But unfortunately, we haven't been able to pre-populate everything into the data set straight away. So we've got many instances where we will have protected area action plans. These might be associated with diffuse water pollution plans or bathing water action plans, etc. Many of these plans contain existing measures, and we want to be able to bring those into this process as well. So there is a further step where we want to bring those existing measures we've identified under other schemes and other initiatives around protected areas, bring those into this process. Similarly, with the environment programme, so we've got a wide range of projects that are being delivered under the environment programme. Some of those are captured within our system already, but some aren't. So we need to identify those which we haven't already got included and bring those in as well. And the third one there, bringing in detail then as well on mitigation measures for heavily modified water bodies. So there is further work to do to build up this data set over the coming months. But ultimately, the local review aims to address these gaps in the data that we have and start to build this data set up really to inform where we go next or how we can progress that into phase 2. So this is the information that the catchment coordinators will be bringing out to you and sharing over the coming months and starting to build up this work. I would caveat that this is very much work in progress, and we are showing the working and showing the development of this programme of measures rather than coming to you with a complete data set. And I think that's really important to understand, but at the same time, it's a huge opportunity to really be involved in the development of this programme of measures right from the outset, making sure that it reflects the local understanding of water bodies, both in terms of the reasons for not achieving the objectives that we want to achieve, but also identifying the right measures in the right location as well. Claire, can I hand over to you now?
Thanks, Andrew. So we skipped a slide somehow there. Okay, so the role of the catchment coordinators in all of this, and because they're obviously your link to the Environment Agency, is what I want to cover now. So we've obviously identified that consulting with the partnerships to develop the programme of measures will have a huge benefit. We're aware, obviously, of how much detail and information you folks have, and we'll be able to add a brilliant amount of information to this process, which is why we want to be able to consult with you on this. Sorry, not consult, to be able to co-develop this with you now and consult with with you later. Partnerships will be engaged via the catchment coordinators directly. They will hopefully be bringing you this data in order to go through it and review and add what you think the measures need to be. What we would like is for sort of a minimum that sort of you review it and are able to verify what is already in there. And if that is all that you're able to do, then we understand that is okay. We know that partnerships resource is extremely limited and stretched. If you are able to go further and have focused discussion on what other measures could be added into there, that would be fabulous. But there is no expectation that the level of detail in this is complete by the end of January, certainly. And we also expect that there will still be some gaps. But if we can complete and fill up in these gaps, then that would be fantastic. Just to reiterate what Andrew already said, that there will be gaps. This isn't a complete system. It isn't a complete programme. So please don't expect that. We're consulting with you right at the very beginning of this so that it's a co-designed thing. We're not coming to you with a finished item that you won't be able to input to. So I really want to make sure that is very clear. Future liaison on this, I know we're doing this today from the national team because we wanted you to be able to have one voice and one version of what was going on to take some pressure off the catchment coordinators having to explain it all to you individually. So you've had that from us today, but please do from now on talk with your catchment coordinators, and if they aren't able to answer any of the questions, they'll be able to come back to us. So hang on, it's jumping. Right. So on the summary points, these are just there so Andrew has already mentioned a lot of this. So just again, bringing it to your attention. We think there's a huge benefit in having your involvement at this point. It's not simply because it's the opinion of the courts. We know that all that detail is there with you, and we want that to go in. Phase 1 of the process is to develop the programme, and which will continue over the next 12 months with a much longer term management thereafter, where we expect that programme to keep continuing to to fill and develop in detail as well. I think this is the third time we've said it, but just to make it sure really clear, that this isn't a finished product. We will be developing it and continue to evolve over time. There's no formal consultation on the programs of measures, but we will be consulting on that alongside the River Basin Management Plan. So just a couple of very brief summary points from what Andrew was saying. To finish off, I just wanted to really quickly inform you of other activities that are happening within the River Basin Management Plan over the next 12 months that we would like partnerships to be involved in. The main ones being the consultations that have just been published. So they're at the top of that list there. The Surface Water Management Issue published on the 20th of November. If you can, as individuals and as partnerships, reply to that consultation, it'd be fabulous to have your opinions in there. We will then obviously have the draft plan and the review and respond to the consultations as you are able. The next bit that the catchment partnerships need to be involved in is the catchment partnership pages. You all did these for the third cycle of River Basin Management Planning in 2022. So we're looking at updating those pages. I have been working with a small group of catchment partnership partners and hosts to improve and develop the catchment partnership pages. Originally, the plan was that we would consult and start to develop those around now, but because of the programme of measures, we've been able to shift this back into next year to give you space to complete the programme of measures. So in your national success measures, in your grant agreement, it does say that you will work on activity related to river basin management planning. Originally, that was planned to be the catchment partnership pages. It's now the ponds. And next year, in the national success measures, we will include the continuation of the ponds and the completion of the catchment partnership pages. A few high-level points on the catchment partnership pages. They are going to move to the live side of CDE when we come to the final, publishing the final plan. That is to make them more visible to people and to ensure that we are able to provide updates through the cycle, which we haven't been able to do this time. And the group that was helping me develop this felt that that would be really important and a really good change. So we're making that happen. The task and finish group have redesigned the pages, which I'll show you a brief overview in a second, but hopefully you will have seen that as well in the CABA newsletter a few months ago. And thank you to everyone who did respond to that CABA newsletter to give feedback on the page and to make improvements. One of the other things that the task and finish group were really keen to do was to look to include a map and search function on the CDE pages, on the page of pages, which we're looking at trying to do as well, but I can't show you that right now. But this is what the proposed new catchment partnership pages might look like. There will obviously be some slight changes to this because this is done on a document system rather than on the computer. So they on the website, sorry. So the design might change fractionally, but this is what we're kind of looking at. But you've, as I say, you've hopefully already seen that. So, as some of you may know already, I'm actually changing roles at the end of tomorrow. So if you do need to contact me directly, I will try to get back to you, but you may be better contacting Damien Crilly. Most of you will have that contact, but if not, go via your catchment coordinator and they'll be able to help you. And that, I believe, is that. So I will stop sharing now and we'll go into the question and answer session. If the panel want to put their cameras back on. And Paul has very kindly agreed to chair the Q&A for us. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Claire. Afternoon, everyone. I'm Paul Bryson. I work for the Environment Agency National Office. Historically, on catchment-based approach policy framework back in 2010, 2013. More recently on river basin planning and water industry price review. So yes, we've been getting questions coming through on the Q&A. Thank you very much for that. Some really good questions. Some of the panel have been answering some of those. What I'll do is I'll focus on the unanswered ones, if that's okay. People have been using the upvoting function, so we'll take them in the order they've been voted on. But please don't hesitate to add new questions or add to the voting if you want to change the order of things. So the first sort of question we're going to pick up, Ellie Brown asked a question which she feels has been answered by Claire, so we'll go to the next one, which was from Andy Bray. Will new data be available to inform failures and RNAGs, reasons for not achieving good? And who is going to analyse and interpret this data for detailed measures production? So Andrew, can I sort of pass that one to you? Could you just explain a little bit about how we're organising area teams to help coordinate the data sets and act upon the information?
Yep, thanks, Paul. So the data set that we're sharing and we're providing out to the areas contains the latest classification, so information on the 2025 classification, where we have that currently available. So we're using that to identify where the latest failures are. We've then got a number of area teams reviewing all of the reasons data. So there's been a requirement on area teams to review reasons over the last year. So we should have a really up-to-date data set around reasons for not achieving good. And that really does then form that basis then for, excuse me, identifying measures linked to those reasons. Now, clearly with the 2025 classification recently being sort of undertaken, there will be some new failures. So there will be new elements that fail under that classification. So they will need to undergo some form of investigation. So we are scheduling and programming that work in now with the relevant area teams as well. But that is a necessary part of it. When we have new failures, we do need to undertake investigations. So we do need to schedule those in, but we are very much then focusing on where we've got existing failures, known reasons, and building measures that we can link to those known reasons. We'll then bring the findings of those investigations in at a later stage once they're completed, hopefully during phase 2, really.
Thank you, Andrew. So the next sort of most voted question came from Ruth McBain. Mark, I'll probably hand this one over to you. Basically, the question is, her understanding about the cost of BEC issue was that the criticism was there wasn't specific enough measures identified to address the specific local pressures and impacts. How do we address this in the areas where we don't have much data? That's the first part of the question. And then the second part of the question is there funding in place on offer to investigate these areas? Could you have a crack at that one for us, please?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Ruth. I think the first part is your understanding of the cost of equity was correct. I think Andrew, in his answer to the previous questions, has sort of covered some of the first part around, obviously in some places, we might be lacking information, or we might be uncertain about the causes of any problems. And obviously, if we don't know what the cause is, we can't work out the measures. So yes, there's going to be more work needed in those places, and part of that will be through our area teams doing investigations, but also drawing on information and evidence that others hold, which can help identify what the cause of some of those problems can be. I can't specifically answer anything on funding. I mean, Claire, and I think there are a couple of other questions elsewhere in the list Paul will come to around funding, particularly in relation to the partnerships, which that's not my area, and Claire may be able to say something on that. But yeah, recognise that in some places, we're going to have to improve our understanding and knowledge in order to identify the measures, and that will be part of it down to us, and part of that collective effort of whatever evidence is around that we need to make best use of it.
Thanks, Mark. So let's come to the funding sort of issues. Claire, do you feel able to have a crack at those? I'll read the questions out. So I think there were two in particular. There was one from an anonymous attendee. The in-depth detailed work you were proposing seems likely to call on significant. Oh, hang on. Things are jumping around. I've just lost the question.
Is it significantly
have you picked it up?
Yeah, significantly more CABA resources than you currently provide us. How do you propose to recompensate? Words have left me. Compensate us for the costs we'll incur. And there was another one around what's the expectation of catchment partnerships and catchment hosts? How will that expectation be resourced as an additional ask? It's a bit of a funny one, isn't it? Because in some ways it is a brand new ask, in the fact that we've never really asked you to put detail into a spreadsheet like this before in this kind of way. However, this is what you folks do all the time. This is what CABA does all the time. You identify what problems there are and what needs to be done to improve those. So absolutely, I get that there is required additional resource in order to do this. However, you've got that knowledge. We're not asking you to go away and start doing investigations or anything like that. We just want you to use the knowledge that you already have to help us to fill in some of those gaps. And there's absolutely no expectation, as I was saying earlier, that those gaps and all that detail is in there instantly. This is a developing system that we want to improve over time. So you know what the answer to those questions is already. There isn't any additional money. However, you know that Damien and I will work and push, and we have been doing through spending review to try and get you extra resources, and we will continue to do that. As far as this is concerned, though, as you know, we won't be able to do anything specific, but you know this stuff. You've been doing this stuff for years. But I completely understand that putting it into a spreadsheet isn't what we've asked you to do before, and all we ask is that you do what you are able to. Thanks.
Thanks, Claire. So on the funding conundrum, I'd like to add a little bit. It was more in relation to the question Mark was answering around investigations and will there be funding available for investigations. Part of what we want to get out of this exercise is really to expose the scale of action needed at the local level. So for every reason, what the required measures are. And it's highly likely that existing delivery mechanisms, such as existing EAF funding for investigations, won't deliver all of the required need around investigations. So it'll expose that gap. And I think that's a really important product or outcome from this exercise. It's going to really sort of bear stark some of the sort of scale of the challenge around funding. So, you know, that's what we're hoping to get out of that, to some degree. That's probably a career limiting statement I've just made, but I'm just being really open and honest with you. The funding challenge is huge, as we all know, but this exercise will hopefully help shine a very stark spotlight on that and strengthen our power to our elbows to make the case for better funding in future. Right, back to the questions. There was a one from Imogen Rutter around, will the suggested actions be on a level of detail similar to other strategies, e.g. LNRS? Any of the panel want to have a go at that? I can, if you don't feel able. Anyone want to have a first bash?
I can come in, Paul. Yeah, I saw that question. I've lost it now. I think from my understanding of local nature recovery strategies is they often, or they might identify opportunities for the delivery of particular types of measure or action. So it's more sort of opportunities or where particular interventions might apply. Whereas I think what we're looking for here are more detailed, specific actions and measures that are very much linked to the reason. So what are the activities or the interventions that we would need to address a particular reason? So what type of agriculture interventions do we need? What sort of water company interventions do we need? Permit improvements, treatment improvements, etc. So I think that, yeah, what we're looking for here in the programme of measures is much more sort of focused at the specific reasons and detailed actions that are going to resolve those particular reasons, rather than opportunities for delivering a particular type of measure. So I think there is a subtle sort of difference between the two, but we are working with colleagues who are working on and linked through to the local nature recovery strategies, and seeing where there is alignment on that and where we can bring those opportunities across, and clearly where we can, and we can feature those in the programme of measures work as well. Where that opportunity is, we'll bring those across.
Thanks, Andrew. There was a question, I've lost it now, from Timothy Palmer around how are we going to engage with farmers and landowners? So, as we sort of said, this is a phased approach. Ideally, we'll start to pick up some of the land managers that sit on partnerships through the phase one engagement and working with catchment partnerships. But as Annabelle Nolan sort of highlighted, often the agricultural community isn't particularly well represented. So we'll be looking to pick up further engagement with the agricultural community in phase two of the engagement. And we're going to be working with our agricultural team in the Environment Agency to think through, how do we get participation from NFU, CLA and others. And also, when we do the formal consultation on the Waterbody Programmes of Measures, they'll have an opportunity, the whole agriculture sector will have an opportunity to feed in and help shape the final Waterbody Programmes of Measures through that process. So we're confident we'll be able to get participation and involvement.
And ultimately we'll be engaging much wider as we come to the consultation, the formal consultation as well.
Yeah, thanks, Claire.
Can I just address the one that might have gone out of your view, Paul, because it's jumped up around others that we do, around what I said about that you've got this knowledge, you do this all the time. People coming back saying that it won't wash. I completely understand that. I understand where you're coming from. I can only reiterate the fact that this is a request to do what you can within the resources that you've got. We understand that you're limited and that we can't expect you to fill in all of these gaps. That's not what we're asking. We are purely asking you to do what you're able to do, please. Thanks.
Thanks, Claire. Andrew, two questions for you in combination. So Thea Margaret's asked, could we expand on what Waterbody scale is? Is this, it's jumped around again. Very,
It does, Paul, I'm afraid, yeah.
Well, hopefully you spotted that. So if you can just clarify what we mean by Waterbody scale and how it links to catchments. And then the other part of the question was, where are the 2025 classifications? Are they on CDE? So if you could just cover those two off.
Thanks. Yeah, okay. So when we're classifying the water environment under WFD, we split all the rivers and catchments into the smallest water sort of management unit called a water body. And so that's, so the term water body covering that relatively short stretch of river, but obviously sort of a number of water bodies will then come together to create that catchment. So you've then got a hydrological catchment, but they split into subsets or shorter reaches known as water bodies. So in terms of this work, we are trying to put together a programme of measures for each individual water body. So that smaller stretch, if you like, or that short stretch within a catchment. But very clearly, water bodies are all linked together. So it might be that the same reason and the same measure apply to a number of water bodies in a catchment. So obviously they multiply up, or there is a clear linkage, particularly between activities that take place in the headwaters of a catchment and the impact that they then have on downstream parts of the catchment and downstream water bodies. So there is that relationship there, yes, between the wider catchment, but then also how we split that catchment into smaller water management units. But clearly they interact, and we will use that to then build up all the parts or all the pieces into this programme of measures. So in terms of the 2025 classification, so our data teams have been running all of the classification tools over the last few months to generate the 2025 classification. Some of this data is now available for us to use internally, and where we can and where we have access to that, we've included that now into the data set that is being used for this review and into the data sets that catchment coordinators can provide externally to their catchment partnerships, etc. So where we have that data, we're able to share that to support these discussions, because clearly we want these discussions to be based around the latest information and knowledge, etc., that we have around classifications and what's happening within our catchments. So we can share and use that data there. But the more formal publication of the 2025 classification won't be made available until later next year, once all of the remaining classifications are complete and the data has been formally signed off. So whilst we've got an early view of some elements of it here, and we're using that to inform discussion, the wider sign-off and formal release of that and publication of that won't take place until the second half of next year, upon which it will go onto the government website, ultimately onto the Catchment Data Explorer, and be made available through the normal routes in terms of downloads, etc. So the full data set will come at some point in time, but for now we at least have got access to relevant data sets that we've built into the data tool and built into the spreadsheets that we're providing out to areas, so we can start to inform that discussion. Well,
thanks, Andrew. So Graham Weston asks a question. As a water company employee, I am not sure if this is for him, but he's struggling to see how the timelines match with PR29 WINEP. My team, Graham, sort of manages our BMP programme and price review programme. We're doing a lot of work on the price review side to try and align the Waterbody POMS work with the imminent planning for PR29 we're going to start to move forward on in the coming months. What we want to try and do is use this Waterbody POMS work to help inform PR29. So there is quite a bit of work going on within the agency aligning all of this. And we are looking to sort of come out to water companies to share our thinking. And, you know, it would be fantastic if we could sort of align that with the engagement discussions we're having with catchment partnerships as well. So just to try and reassure you, there is thinking going on around alignment of these things. Mark, I think there's a question here for you from Lawrence Coldrick. So essentially, he's saying, we know what we need to do on our catchments, we just don't have the funding. You know, it amounts to hundreds of millions if we did it fully and comprehensively across all water bodies. Do we only list programs of measures that are likely, or what is actually needed to deliver change? Could you give us a view on that?
Yeah, thanks, Lawrence. So we have to put into the programs of measures the measures that are needed to achieve the objectives. So it's the second part of what you're saying. So we actually need to identify what is needed to deliver change, and then part through this work, you know, that might then flag up where there are gaps in funding or other means of delivering those measures that are needed. So that's part of the process. But yeah, we need to identify what's needed rather than just what we think is likely to get funded.
Okay, thanks, Mark. So I'm just scanning through. I'm not sure if we've missed any of the big questions. Claire, could you also just have a quick run through and make sure we've picked up the main points? Is there anything leaping out that we need to have another crack at?
It's one from Thea around, could we expand what water body scale is? Is this subcatchment, is the subcatchments for each would WFD assessed water body?
I think Andrew answered that one. Didn't you, Andrew?
Did you answer that one? Sorry.
Yes, I think we covered that one a couple of questions ago. But yes, just to reiterate, yes, so every catchment is then split into smaller water management sort of reaches, if you like, called water bodies. So it's at that scale that we need to develop the programme of measures, but clearly many measures and many reasons will be common across water bodies within a single catchment. So there is a lot of interaction really between measures and how they apply across a catchment.
Thanks, Andrew. There's one here from Guy Moll. Hi, Guy. Long time no see. He's asking, how are you coordinating with NRW on cross-border RPMPs, specifically the 7? And he's got a particular interest in parts of the Y and USC. We have a session with NRW tomorrow to sort of engage and understand how both organisations are addressing the Waterbody POMS workload. So it's in development. We don't have a clear, definitive, agreed sort of approach just yet, but it is, conversations are ongoing, and hopefully we can clarify how we will operate across both NRW and EA to get a seamless sort of programme of Waterbody Programme of Measures for those cross-cutting catchments. Okay. Right, so Andy Bray asks a really interesting question. What happens if none of the partnerships contribute? What's plan B? So my take on this, Andy, is, you know, we need to provide the opportunity for people to input. We desperately hope they will input. We think we will get a better product. together we are stronger. We will develop a much more robust programs of measures if we work on it collaboratively together. We ideally want Plan A, that collaborative phased approach, to work. I don't really like to sort of think about or contemplate Plan B. It would be a drastic shame if we weren't able to make Plan A happen. If people aren't able to contribute, I think the agency would just have to move forward as best it could without the support of partnerships. But I really hope it doesn't come to that. So that's sort of my perspective on that. I don't know. Does anyone else on the panel want to sort of add to that or elaborate?
No, just to agree, Paul, really, that we dearly want your input into this, because we think it will be better at the end of the day if you do. But we do understand, as we've said plenty of times already, that you are restricted. So let's aim for Plan A. And unfortunately, if Plan B happens, it will be a real shame. But we will just progress forward without that input from yourselves, which would be really unfortunate. You will have, but there will be a wider consultation as well later on during the formal consultations.
Okay. So I think we're coming sort of to the end of the Q&A session. Claire, did you still need a bit of time at the end to do wrap up? I can't remember.
No, we switched it around. Yeah.
Switched that off. So I think the key thing for people to realise is we will go away and gather all of the Q&A. Emily's going to sort of make sure we cited on the full range of questions. We will provide responses to everything in full, and we will share that around after today. I've found, the feedback we're getting hugely helpful. We understand the sort of frustrations people have around funding. We share those too. We really hope you can help sort of participate in this and drive it forward. We think it's a really productive product. The Waterbody Programmes of Measures product is going to add real value alongside the river basin plans. So we really hope we can sort of do a really good, robust job on it, because I think it'll help drive forward better water management and delivery going forward. I just wanted to sort of thank everyone for their time and participation today. As I say, it's been really, really helpful and good, and we appreciate everything you do to support sort of river basin planning work. Much appreciated. But Emily, I'll probably pass back to you now, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's no problem. If no one else has anything to add from the panel, then we'll just wrap up a couple minutes early if everyone's happy.
Can we just say, Emily, that the recording for this will be shared on the CAVA website along with the slide pack from today.
Yeah.
And Q&A answer.
And
yes.
the Q&A.
So I'll make sure I get the all the outstanding Q&As over to you after this. But yeah, thanks again, everybody. I won't keep you for much longer, but yeah, I just want to say thanks to the panelists. Thanks for everyone joining, and thanks for all of the questions. It definitely kept coming in, didn't it? All the questions. But that's why it was all bouncing about. So yeah, thanks so much, everyone, and have a nice rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.